Hello and welcome to the EPUB 9. Tonight's episode? The portable air conditioner. Which is a little worse for wear after about 6 years sitting in the cupboard. So what is this thing? I have the documentation right here, complete with a flying robot dog. Because why not? What was I saying? Behold the invention of the portable air conditioner. Bearing in mind I completed this in 2007, which was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 6 years ago now. A long time. And, well, here it is. I actually built the prototype. So let's get into the documentation first. So we have mechanics. With dimensions and all that jazz. We then have a little story, complete with lots of bad spelling. That starts off how I did it. And, to have a little read, as we know it gets hot and humid in the summer of England, plus I go abroad a lot. That used to be more of a thing that used to be, when we actually had money. At first it was a dream, a childhood dream. In other words, a mad idea that would probably never happen, you know, like most childhood dreams. But in this case it was different. It all started when I poured water over myself on holiday and turned a little firm and discovered water could be used as a coolant. So I pulled out science books, started looking at basics of how air conditioning systems were built, and actually tried to reproduce one with drinking straws and that. But of course, a technology caught my eye that at that time I was not able to get hold of. Peltier heat pumps. These things are not readily available in the high street shops. The only place you can get them, internet. I didn't have a debit card back then. I was what, 15, 16? So these were pretty much ruled out straight away, and after the straw idea failed, I went to stick water in a carton and freeze it. Work experience, I gained a lot of components. It took me a year to gather all the components for this. Most of it's built out of laptop parts and bits that I found in the garage. There's a picture of the stuff, and it's outside it. And how it works. Dirt simple. Some of my electrical theories are a little more ambiguous than what they are now. But basically, you put cold water in here. This is actually detachable with screws, so you can take the electronics off. Stick it in the freezer. And then the fans are both controlled by separate 5-volt regulators, which are controlled by a hairdryer switch. I supply about 10.5 volts through with a 9-volt battery and an AA, so it reduces down to 95 volts each way. That's all good. Laptop heatsink from an old Pentium 4 laptop or something. And of course, inside the carton, you stick that in the freezer, it works nicely. And of course, materials used. Well, we've got laptop heatsinks, laptop CPU clamp, laptop CPU heatsink, laptop CPU fans. It's one reason why I've hoarded these whenever I can. But out of all of it, these are the only two decent ones I've been able to source. There's another one here. And so, if we continue on the documentation, we get improvement. What would I add? Digital thermostat would display the temp of the uncooled air and cooled air. Yes, that would be actually quite handy. Insulation around the carton, but I'll just replace those. Give portable AC more powerful fans. These turbine ones are a definite improvement. Make it smaller so you can fit in pocket. Yeah, this isn't exactly pocket size. It also needs some repair. Give it rechargeable batteries, an AC power source, so you can plug it into the wall when you want to and charge it. Make it look sleek and cool. I think I'd have to employ someone else to do that. I'm not very good at the aesthetic side. Make the joint stronger with screws rather than hot glue. Yes, because you have this exact problem. Add a small computer for temp control. When you're going to be using one of these, definitely. Base and top can be improved by attached clips, but if you use Peltier you don't need to. Fans could be attached, yeah. Get it to run on lower voltages. Be a bit difficult when you're using Peltier heat pump. Reduce the weight, definitely. And then we have conclusion. The project went well, as I have invented a portable AC, and it works. As you can expect, it is not perfect, but I've put down a few modifications, some of which need, some of which it needs, some of which would greatly improve it. Overall, I'm pleased how it turned out, and I will build a few more prototypes and see if I can get the improvements into a unit that I can then market it. And that's the thing. Is this potentially something that you could make a business out of, or is it really just one of those dead-end inventions? Because there are plenty of those dead-end inventions. Either way, with now the possession of Peltier heat pumps, we can find that out. Because basically what these do is they pump heat from one side to the other. They consume a lot of amps, so current will be a huge issue. You know, especially as it can be a battery device, which could potentially mean it's not feasible under the current technologies. But I feel I should at least get 2 more prototypes done. Base units run off of bench power supplies for experimentation, and then a basic sort of computer-controlled handheld prototype, which will probably be something that will complete in a number of years, because I don't exactly have full time to work on this stuff. And, well, yeah, these things, sadly how these things work is extremely complicated and requires a lot of complex physics and quantum mechanics. So basically you've got an N-type and P-type silicon in there. All the little modules of silicon, or whatever material they use, are all hooked up in series, or otherwise you'd end up consuming extreme currents of like point something of a volt. Think of like 0.65 volts or something. Whereas this way they consume about 5 amps, a lot less current, and 12, 15, whatever volts. I think these can handle up to 16, these units. I also want to see what you can get at lower voltages. Say 5 volts, what sort of things do you get for current? You know, it's all good stuff to look at. But if we can find a sort of low level, because if we can get it to run decently about 1 or 2 amps, that would be awesome. But that's the whole point. Experiment. Is the technology feasible? You know, because a handheld portable air conditioner would be very useful, especially if you can get it cheap. And that's where it all comes from. It's my little invention. One of a kind. I have noticed one other thing on the internet where someone has come up with a portable air conditioner, but I'm afraid I called the idea first. However, it probably wouldn't be a bad thing to have a community working on a project like this and working to make it a reality. A bit like they did with Black Mesa, the Half-Life 1 mod, which was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, laptop heat sinks, always handy with the turbine blades. Definitely. These 2 will be used for the desk prototype, and then I can work on things like computer control and that. Maybe I might dismantle that prototype afterwards and use it in the main one. But this, my friend, is a one of kind. It looks like a piece of shit stuck together, load of shit glued together. That's because it is. But, hey, for a 15, 16-year-old, not a bad little thing. I haven't seen any of the major industries come up with anything. Because that's all what it's about. Young, inspired minds that wants to do something. Sadly, my invention couldn't have been a bit more awesome. It is kind of crappy, but hey, you gotta start somewhere. Everything else is just rehashes of what everyone else is. In fact, that is sort of, because, you know, air conditioning technology is already out there, but an actual portable handheld unit would be something that I reckon would be very handy, especially abroad, because there are times when a fan is just not sufficient. You know, because what does a fan do? It blows hot air at you. And if the air is flowing at a rate slower than it can actually draw the heat off you, and it ends up transmitting heat to you as it blows past, it just makes you hotter. And in hot countries, that tends to be the case. Fans do nothing. They just blow, like when the blowers were on in my car, they're just blowing hot air at me, so I just turned them off. But yeah, not more to say on